Donald Trump decided to break the nepotism meter. He hired his son-in-law for a new job in his administration. Reporter Mary Pappenfuss explains here. Fresh from the slopes of Aspen, Jared Kushner is slated to be named on Monday the head of an aggressive new team charged with fixing the federal government by using business strategies. Quote, "The government should be run like a great American company," Kushner said Sunday in an interview with the Washington Post, which first revealed the new initiative. "Our hope is that we can achieve successes and efficiencies for our customers who are the citizens." According to the Post, the White House Office of American Innovation has already met with Apple chief executive Tim Cook, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, and Tesla founder Elon Musk, among other business leaders. President Donald Trump personally picked his son-in-law to head up the initiative. In the new position, Kushner, 36, will be granted sweeping authority to overhaul the federal bureaucracy and attempt to meet Trump's campaign promises. The business strategies Kushner aims to utilize could include privatizing some government tasks, the Post reported. Okay, so there are three different elements to this story. The first one is what I just mentioned at the end of the piece here. Privatization. So this is a Trojan horse to privatization. They want to take certain aspects of the government and just say, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and make this not the government anymore and privatize it. This part of Republican ideology has always driven me nuts because they love to run on a platform of government doesn't work. Government is the problem. To which I respond, why the fuck are you trying to get into government? In no other field does that make sense. You can't become a heart surgeon, and as you're training to become a heart surgeon, you proudly proclaim, oh, I don't believe in heart surgery. Well, then why are you doing it? Why are you trying to get into that field? Well, because I think we need a revolution of heart surgeons who don't believe in heart surgery. That makes no sense. But for whatever reason in government, people go, oh, that's right. I'm going to run for government, but for the record, I don't believe in government. So then get the fuck out of government. If you don't believe in it, why are you in it? There's a famous old Republican quote. I think it was an old senator. I forget who it was, but he said, I want to make government small enough so that you can drown it in the bathtub. Well, that's what these guys are trying to do. And privatization is the answer for everything in their book. And again, that drives me nuts because it's not like people strawman liberals and progressives all the time. Like, oh, you think government is the answer to everything. That's not true at all. In fact, I can give you countless examples of areas where I'm happy it's in the free market. And I'm happy it's capitalist. Consumer goods is the go-to example. And there's so many consumer goods, whether it's, hey, I got a new bed. I don't want the government making your bed. I don't want the government making your car. I don't want the government making your video games or your TVs. There's a million things I think that should be privatized. But there are some that should be public that the profit motive does not work well with. Like healthcare, for example. Classic example. Like prisons. Like the military, you can't have mercenary armies everywhere. Like roads, you can't have, every time you turn onto a street, you want to pay a toll? You want to take a 10-minute drive and pay 6 fucking tolls? It doesn't make any sense. It's a dumb idea. But here they're going to take key government functions, just privatize it. Just privatize it. And look, I got some of these companies I actually like, but you can't, they do what they do. They are private companies. You know, Apple does what they do. To bring them into the government and say, okay, now we're gonna privatize this giant swath of what used to be a government function, and now you take over, that's a corporatocracy. You know, it's like you're openly making the country into more of an oligarchy, more of a kleptocracy, more of a plutocracy, more of a corporatocracy. I mean, we're living a sci-fi novel with shit like this. So the first point here is they're on a privatization crusade here, and that's not going to end well. There are some things that need to be part of what's called the commons, and they're going to try to privatize it. The second point here is, this is such over-the-top, disgusting, brazen nepotism. Could you imagine if Hillary Clinton was elected, and then they said, we just created a brand new government agency, and Chelsea Clinton is going to lead it? We all would have said, excuse you? No, that's not a thing. Like, you're not allowed to do that. What do you think this is? What do you think? We're a third world fucking banana republic and we have our dictator? I decree that my bloodline, my wonderful son-in-law is going to head this government agency. I'm amazed that this is just like, they just do it, you know? Like it used to be back in the day, you had to try to hide your corruption and your nepotism. Now they're not hiding either one. You know, Goldman Sachs, 4 different government positions now, top key government positions? When Trump was like, Goldman Sachs, terrible, sucks. Anyway, now I'm going to hire all of them. He brought in the fucking president of Goldman Sachs. It wasn't even like a low-level guy who was there for 3 minutes. One guy was there for 17 years, Steve Mnuchin. Another guy was the fucking president. Another guy was responsible for orchestrating the bailout of Goldman Sachs. So again, as free market capitalism, if you fail, you fail. No, that's just for the little guy. Well, for Goldman Sachs, socialism for the rich, corporatism through and through. So if Chelsea Clinton was picked to head a new government agency, there'd be an outcry that's just, what the fuck are you doing? With Jared Kushner, it's just a few mentions here and there. And look, part of that is because Trump does so many outrageous things that it's like, you know, people are trying to peg this on the priorities list and it just ranks near the bottom because in reality, Jared Kushner is actually a hell of a lot smarter than Donald Trump. So people go, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. But you can't, on principle, you can't do this. You can't allow this. You can't just have president, okay, here, my son-in-law, you know, my daughter, my this, my that. I got my uncle, my cousin twice removed, and now they do this, and they get a salary, and they could just sit on their fucking ass. So no, not okay. And then the third aspect to this here, which honestly I think is actually the most important. You got privatization problem, brazen nepotism problem. But the worst part of this story is, okay, there was a line here in the middle of the article. Let's see if I could find it while I'm talking to you live. Here we go. It says, in the new position, Kushner, 36 years old, will be granted sweeping authority to overhaul the federal bureaucracy and attempt to meet Trump's campaign promises. Okay, that sentence right there, that's the president's job. Like you just described, in the new position, Kushner will be granted sweeping authority to overhaul the federal bureaucracy and attempt to meet Trump's campaign promises. So in other words, this is Trump saying, yeah, one of my main functions as president, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to Jared Kushner. That's mental. Now, again, you can make the argument, well, Kushner's smarter and maybe we want that. But Kushner wasn't fucking elected. You can't just fucking... That's not the way it's supposed to work. That's not the way any of this works. So this is, we're in uncharted waters here, son. Because he's just, I don't know, here, give it to my son-in-law. You're going to do like half the fucking job that the president's supposed to do. The other half is the commander-in-chief. And by the way, on that front, I'm just going to outsource it directly to the military-industrial complex. We covered that story the other day. Trump just keeps bringing in people from the defense contractors. Okay, now I want you in government. They have a vested conflict of interest to say, unlimited contracts for all the fucking companies I worked for, and let's build more tanks, and let's do more invasions, and that's exactly what they're doing. 1,000 more ground troops in Syria, increasing now in Afghanistan. Story the other day. Now in Yemen, they're like, let's get more involved in Yemen. Increase of drone strikes, 432%. Come on, man. Come on. This is, again, we're in uncharted waters, and that's perfectly clear reading this story.